Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm the chair for this debate. You can call me Yuri. So before we start, can each of the debater please introduce yourself, your POI preferences, and your speaker roles? Thank you. Starting from government team PM.
Hi, I would prefer verbal POIs, and I'll be the first speaker for government side. Thank you.
Yeah, DPM, then GovWhip, and then for the opposition team, LODLO opposition whip. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Chloe and I'm the DPM and my preferred gender pronoun she, her, and I prefer verbal POIs. Thank you.
Hi, I'm the government whip. My name is Irene and my preferred gender pronouns are she, her, and please offer verbal POIs. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Benjamin. I prefer my pronouns are he, him, and I will take my POIs verbally.
Hi, Teo Sim Cheng. My preferred gender pronouns are he or his, and I prefer my POIs verbally at any time of my speech. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jill. I'm the opposition whip. My pronouns are she, her, and I take my POIs verbally.
Okay, so for opposition team, may I know who is going to do the reply speech?
So for opposition, I'll do the reply.
You are Sim Cheng, right?
Yes.
May the panelists please introduce themselves?
We can do this alphabetically. My name is Brendan. I was judging one of the junior semi-final Zooms just now. Nice to meet you all.
Okay.
Justin, you're next. Justin and then Clarice, whatever.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, it's fine. Hi everyone, I'm Justin. I'm also a panelist. Some of you already know me and some of you don't, but now you know.
Hi, my name is Clarice and I'm also a fellow panelist. So yeah, that's all.
Great. Without further ado, I call the House to order. May we now invite the Prime Minister to start the debate. Here.
Just to check if I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Yes, you are.
Okay, I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. This debate is about what is in the best interest of Terry. Our burden on site government is to prove that rebranding himself is in the interest of Terry. The comparative in this debate is that Terry rebranding himself as a different superhero versus continuing the branding of Batman under site opposition. A few characterizations before I begin with my substantives. So I'll be explaining about who is Batman. Batman is the main crime fighter in the city. Most of the crime lords, mafia, villains, muggers, criminals basically just fear him as he's very powerful and outrageous, relying on his high-tech gear, martial arts, and his high intelligence. His special gear for fighting crime is often stored in his utility belt. Next, Batman has already built a name and reputation from himself, as everyone in Gotham City has already known Batman for his amazing superpowers and how he fights the inevitable enemies. Apparently, it is obvious that enemies are going to come after the new Batman if they catch a wind of a new Batman in the town, which is Harry is supposed to going to be. This will just put his life in great danger. So why do Harry needs to risk that? Besides, Batman is also someone who is extremely powerful, smart, and intelligent, like how he managed to outwit his opponents, even if he doesn't have superpowers on the spot. He's also a rich billionaire, as all of us know, being able to build gadgets for himself to aid him in the battle. So if Terry actually continued the branding of Batman, would he be able to afford all this high-tech gear? Plus, people tend to forget that Terry is just a 16-year-old kid. Because he takes the mantle of Batman, people definitely expect way more than they should at his age. Undoubtedly, it would just be more stressful for Terry to keep up with his expectations as what the citizens expected him to do if he just continued with the branding of Batman. So it will be preferably more positive for him to rebranding himself as a new superhero. Next, I'll be explaining about why does the incentive of Terry rebranding himself as new superhero exists. First, if Terry continued the branding of Batman, he will be upholding the legacy. Obviously, the responsibility is just too heavy for him to carry. As I mentioned, he's just a 16-year-old kid. He doesn't want to be framed as Batman with Bruce credit and personalities. It is just weird for someone to call you by a name who is not yours. And secondly, he isn't as resourceful as Batman. As I mentioned, Batman is a billionaire. And it will be undoubtedly that Terry will not be able to afford that. Even if he does inherit the wealth from Bruce Wayne, after he dies, the wealth will subsequently disappear as well. So he will be unable to sustain himself with the repairing of his gadgets, device, making new gadgets and upgrading his own suit to constantly improving himself. Therefore, he's going to die more easily on the battlefield as he doesn't have the superpowers to aid him as what the previous Batman has. He only relies on his weapons and gadgets. Once that is gone, he's going to be more likely to perish without anyone remember who truly Terry is. Second, Terry isn't as experienced as Batman. As I mentioned, he is a 16-year-old kid. Even he has received training from the OG Batman himself, it does not guarantee that he knows how to face them. It is extremely difficult from training as he needs to think on the spot immediately and have quick wits on how to defend himself. He can only gain from the years of experience with dealing with these criminals on the battlefield. So he's not going to be able to adapt the new role as Batman if he continues the branding of Batman. He isn't as smart as him. He only has a strong sense of justice, wanting to save people, but it doesn't say that he was a genius, teen prodigy or anything. He hasn't even finished his high school education as he's only 16. He probably doesn't know a lot about the basic stuff of being a superhero or being a Batman. Without the enough knowledgeable about technology and science, he will just be unable to continue with his kind of Batman deals with on the battlefield, mainly with his gadgets and devices. Thirdly, Batman means that if he becomes Batman, it means that he has the burden to live under the mold of Batman. This sets an expectation to him to follow the footsteps of Batman and to completely manipulating him because people expect him to do so and act the same way, do the same thing as Batman does. Because he's literally another Batman, if he start off rebranding him, people will just expect a lot more from him. As we all know, Batman actually helped to save the Gotham City and helped to reduce the crime rate by a lot. But if Terry is unable to do that with his ability range, the citizens will just be upset with him that he can't make it out to the title he has as a Batman. Batman also contributed a lot to the city, and citizens will probably just ask Terry to do the same thing if he takes the mantle of Batman. He can't perform as well with that much stress, and maybe Terry will just make matters worse. This will feel mad about him when he fails to finish his missions, and the citizens will probably be disappointed with him, and Terry will be sad when the citizens actually criticize him for not expecting their expectations. Besides, if he chooses to rebrand himself as a different superhero, people won't expect much him as is to new to saving people. It will not be so full pressure for him to save people. Maybe even he had fun doing that. As time goes on, when he saves more people, gains more experience on the battlefield, he will just be the same as Batman. So why doesn't Terry choose to rebranding himself as a new superhero? It is a preferably better option for him to just continue the branding of Batman. Besides, he will also be able to grow as a person he truly wants and desires and constantly fit into the expectations of Batman. That is only his guide. He doesn't necessarily need to rebrand himself as Batman. If he does anything that Batman wouldn't do, there will be public outrage, obviously, as they will constantly be scrutinizing him, and this will just not be good for his superhero life. Fourth, Terry obviously doesn't want to be overshadowed. He is not his own person anymore if he goes under the brand of Batman. He is a totally different individual. Although their ideologies might be the same, but Terry is still quite different from Batman and they might act differently. So he will just attract more enemies as the new Batman, as they found out that there will be rumors about the new Batman coming to the town. Since he's known as the prodigy of Batman under side opposition, everyone will just be targeting him to get back at Batman for what he's done to them. Target on his head as soon as it is revealed that he's under Batman. However, it will not be as bad and when he is not associated with Batman. He doesn't have the past of Batman and he can continue living a new life rebranding himself as a new superhero. By framing himself into a new superhero, he doesn't have to deal with the Batman's grudges and can start off new as a new superhero life. Never been prouder to stand on side government. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister, for the great speech. May we now invite the Leader of Opposition to present their case. Here.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
We are starting my POI at the end of my speech. I'll be starting my speech with some rebuttals, starting in 3, 2, 1. PM said that they'll come after Terry if they found out that he took Batman's name. This is very untrue, as a new name will only make people not trust him, and Batman trusted him and saw potential in him. Next, PM also said that if he continues as Batman, he won't be able to afford all the gear. So the government is forgetting that if Terry rebrands himself, where will the money come from? It will take more money to make more gadgets for himself compared to just inheriting Batman's wealth. Money won't run out so easily. Next, government PM also said that he only relies on weapons and gadgets, unlike the power Batman has. And I'll rebutting this with, as the movie shows, all Batman had gotten was a very mere training. The same could have been done for Terry. PM also said that the citizens will expect a lot from Terry. Batman already trusted him. He knows that he won't disappoint the people. People will understand that he's only young. He has a lot of room to improve and grow. At least the people will trust him more than rebranding himself. Next, PM also said that he'll be as good as Batman when he rebrands. At the start, it'll be hard for people to trust him as he's so young and new. If he continues to brand on Batman, people will listen to him and make it easier for him. Next, PM also said that Terry is different from Batman, but people will be wary and scared. He used to be a troublemaker. He should know how to deal with bad guys. Lastly, PM also said that everyone would target and ruin Terry's life if they feel threatened. Terry won't reveal his identity. He will be able to just continue living a normal life if he gets Batman out. He then will be trained to be able to defeat the villains and save the city. Moving on. Our side will be proving that Batman's brand brings more benefits to Terry and society than harm. Argument. People will trust Terry more if he continues the brand of Batman. Batman is well known. He's a respected superhero, and criminals fear Batman. Just by the name, everyone will be scared and won't try to intervene with Batman. And Batman is very renowned. Batman has been fighting for justice for really
Hi, sorry, speaker. Sorry. Could you please adjust your mic because it's very fuzzy over here, so we cannot hear clearly what you're talking about. So please check.
Do I need to repeat my speech again?
No. You just make sure that your connection from now on is okay. Your mic is working perfectly from now on, and then you can continue. Okay.
Okay.
Right. So is everything okay? Do you need to make any adjustments?
Is this better?
Yeah, this is definitely better.
Okay, I'm starting from my burden of proof again.
Yeah.
Our side will be proving that Batman's brand brings more benefits to Terry and society than harm. I was starting in my first argument. People will trust Terry more if he continues the brand of Batman, because Batman is a well-known and respected hero. Just by hearing Batman's name, criminals will fear and won't intervene with Batman. And Batman has been fighting for justice for a very long time, and people know him very well. If people know that someone known as Batman was fighting crime with the same proper equipment as the original Batman, they will fear him. When Batman retired, we can see that crime rates have increased a lot, thus proving that Batman was a very effective brand. Continue the brand with the most effective way to stop criminals and villains. Batman has chosen Terry because he sees the potential of Terry inheriting his name. Yes, Terry is also really young, also used to be a troublemaker. However, people will trust him because Batman trusted him. Batman has a lot of experience. The citizens will trust Batman's decision. It's also a really honorable title of being Batman's brand, and Terry has no incentive to change. But in contrast, in Garth's world, if Terry decides to reform, people will be skeptical of him. He's so young and new, also used to be a troublemaker, and new superhero name, which is a young 16-year-old out of nowhere. People might not trust him and make fun of him, giving him a hard time to save the citizens and sabotage his every move. Therefore, changing Batman's brand will only harm his name and give him a hard time. My last argument will be Terry doesn't have any special abilities and needs to rely on Bruce Wayne's wealth and equipment. Bruce Wayne owns the biggest company in Gotham City and is extremely wealthy. And as he is Batman, most of his equipment follow the same theme. Thus, even to change the brand, it will waste a lot of time creating a new equipment, a new theme, a new brand of yours. Since he relies on Batman's wealth, it is only fair and justified to continue the brand. It's troublesome to rebrand himself, and a lot of equipment and money will be needed, etc., etc. That will be end of my speech, and I'll be accepting POIs if anyone has any. If no one has any POIs, then I'll be ending my speech here.
Yes, a POI here. Why would people know who he is and his background? He is both probably going to hide his identity. And why would people mistrust him that way?
Okay, repeat it again.
Why would people know who he is and what his background is? He is probably going to hide his identity, and why would people mistrust him that way?
Because people can tell that he's young and can tell that he's different from any other superhero because he's a new one, and so will be like skeptical of him. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Leader of Opposition, for the great speech. May we now invite the Deputy Prime Minister to present their case. Here.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Just give me a second to set my timer. So just a reminder, I prefer verbal POI, so you can just unmute yourself when you want to offer a POI, because I will not be looking at the chat during my speech. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. I think it's definitely not in Terry's incentive to live under the mold of Batman and also limit himself to follow all the footsteps of Batman, right? And also we think that it's still possible for Batman to continue to support him, although he want to rebrand himself, right? We believe that Batman can still be a mentor. However, we think that it's just the name it's just in the incentive of Terry to rebrand himself as a different superhero. So before moving on into my substantive, I would like to provide 3 main rebuttals towards side opposition. The first thing they question is where the money comes from, and they said that it's very easy for Terry to inherit all the wealth from Batman, right? However, number one, the wealth is going to run out after Bruce dies and is unable to earn more money, right? Because given that right now, Terry is so dependent on Batman and Batman will probably die one day, this means to say that after that, Terry is just completely lose all his support, and this means that Terry will be worse off comparatively, right? Moreover, the reparation of gadgets is going to be costly, and sustaining his superhero life is going to be very costly as well. This looks like using up a lot of money, and a teenager couldn't possibly have that much money. So why is the comparative better under our side? It's just because when he's not living under the name or under the brand of Batman, this means to say that he is allowed to have more flexibility in terms of using what kind of gadgets, or also to use his own technology, right? Because right now, when you frame him as Batman, that means to say that you are expecting him to use the exact same gadgets and so the exact same thing that Batman used. That means to say that he needs to spend a lot of money in order to sustain all of these things, right? And lastly, we think that this for the wealth, he can still use Bruce Wayne's because he's one of the prodigy of Batman, and also at the same time Bruce Wayne can also support him as a mentor, although he doesn't use the same brand anymore, right? Number two, we talk about how they can receive the same training as Batman. However, number one, it's just unclear who is going to train him anyways, just because Batman is going to die anyways, and after, we believe that it's more sustainable if Terry finds his own way to train outside there, right? And also, it's not really about training, as explained by our PM. More often than not, it depends on the superhero how they act on the spot. This because he needs to use his own ways to defend himself and also to attack his enemy, right? It's not really about the training, and we believe that all these life experiences and also all the experience as a superhero can only be gained by Terry himself, but not by Bruce Wayne, right? Number three, they talk about trust, how Batman trusted him, so people will trust him, right? But what happened after Bruce Wayne died? Just because Bruce Wayne is unable to continue to protect the people, or just because Bruce Wayne has made some mistakes before, this means to say that those people who didn't trust him previously will trust Terry as well, right? The most important thing to Terry is just that he doesn't want to live under the legacy or also the mold of Batman. We should allow Terry to have his own room for improvement and also his room to perform in his own way, right? Moreover, there's just a logical gap in their argumentation in terms of why people trusted Batman. It directly equates to trusting Terry as well. Given that right now the person that they trust is Batman but not Terry, we don't see how this would directly means that they will trust Terry as well. Moreover, we think that it's just not in his incentive to live under the shadow of Batman, and I'm going to prove that in my substantive right now. So what impacts we bring to you under side government right? This allows Terry more room for improvement and also more different choices from Batman, and he's not going to follow in his footsteps entirely. Most importantly, he is a different individual and he won't be exactly the same as Batman. He doesn't want to live under the mold of Batman, and this is harmful because he needs to act according to how Batman acts previously. And it is also harmful because that just means that no other superhero will be born when everyone just acts according to Batman, and everyone just don't have their own identity, right? Moreover, we think that Terry has this potential to outperform Batman, to be better than this superhero, right? We think that when you force him to follow whatever Batman does, it means that he can only follow Batman and he can't improve himself, right? If the public uses Batman as an excuse to belittle Terry, this is going to hinder his job a lot. Batman's going to die soon because he has already retired and he's already an elderly, and he's unable to continue to protect him and guide him through what he needs to do. After he dies, there's no saying that people will still support this new Batman, and this means that he won't have protection from him, right? And people might be against this Batman as well. They will see him as criminal or vigilante if he is unable to keep the crime rate as low as what it was before. And this means that they are not going to cooperate with him and not agreeing with his plans that involve civilians and outsiders. They'll just look down on him, thinking that they can protect themselves better. We think that the comparative is better on the outside. When he rebrands himself, that means to say he's a completely new superhero. He's not directly affiliated to Batman, right? This means that this allows some room for him to improve himself and also to act on his own views, right? Because although he might make some mistakes or he might not being able to outperform Batman, it doesn't matter because right now he's not under the brand of Batman. This means to say that he doesn't have this burden to uphold the legacy of Batman or to be as good as Batman, right? This is important because as our PM has already shown you, it's very unlikely for him to be as good as Batman, just because number one, the responsibility is too heavy to carry, and he's not as resourceful as Batman, and he's not as experienced as Batman just because of his age, and he isn't as smart as Batman anyways, right? So lastly, why is the comparative better? Because we allow him to be improved and he can actually flourish in his own way, but not be trapped in what should Batman do or what Batman wouldn't do this, right? He's able to use his training to the fullest extent and use his own creativity and ideas to solve problems. You can say that he can continue to use the gadgets of Batman. However, we think that this kind of technology or gadgets will be outdated one day, and he needs to rely on himself to develop new technology in order to attack his enemies or also defend his own citizens, right? He cannot just completely rely on Batman or just use up all of the resources of Batman, right? This is not going to work as a superhero. It's not going to be sustainable anyways. And also, the release expectations is definitely in the incentive of Terry because it's just not in his incentive to just act accordingly to what Batman has done, and he just don't want to be overshadowed by him because he has this potential to outperform Batman. He just don't want to be overshadowed by Batman anymore, right? So very proud to propose. Thank you.
Thank you for the Deputy Prime Minister for the great speech. May we now invite the Deputy Leader of Opposition to present their case. Hear.
Thank you. I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. As side opposition, we strongly believe that the House as Terry should continue the brand as Batman to continue fighting justice and fighting crime in Gotham City. And so, as the info slide has said, as Bruce Wayne has become old and retired from Batman, crime rates has risen significantly in Gotham. And so he has chosen Terry McGinnis as a 16-year-old reform troublemaker to become his successor. And so first, The city of Gotham is highly corrupted, as we have seen in the movies. Those crime bosses know that Batman is a threat to their illegal businesses that sells illegal goods and does a lot of corrupt and illegal things. And so when they know that a new superhero is to come out with new equipment that he has to start, that he has to make himself and start new without the old equipment, because he can't use Batman's old equipment as it was all themed as Batman. And so he will need new equipment, and as the crime bosses will be aware, they won't allow him to live a life at all. They'll do anything in their power to actually ruin his life and ruin his plans to become a new superhero. And so I'll start off my speech with a few rebuttals. So first, the side government stated that the wealth would run out. And as we have seen also in the movies, Bruce Wayne doesn't work in his parents' company. He doesn't work in Wayne Enterprise, but he holds a big share in it. And so Wayne Enterprises are obligated to actually give him a huge amount of interest just to let him live, just to let the Wayne Enterprise continue its business. And so because Wayne has that big share in the company, he can and he will give that share to Terry. And because Terry will have that wealth, he'll be able to continue fighting crime and fighting for justice at the very time that Gotham needs him the most, with the technology and the equipment that Batman has left, and so that he won't need to actually wait for a very long time and to have new equipment made for him that will make his very own superhero traits. And so he will actually be able to, and in that time when he is waiting for his new equipment, crime rates will then rise significantly. Sorry, I forgot to start my time. And so crime rates will rise significantly in that time. And so Batman will, the name Batman and the brand Batman will strike fear into the hearts of the criminals. And so it will prevent the criminals from even thinking of committing any crimes, as they know that Batman would be there to stop them. And so the government stated that Terry shouldn't live under the legacy of Batman, but he is now Batman. Batman has never had a legacy, but except for the person that fights crime and fights for justice. He isn't living under anyone's legacy. He isn't living under Bruce's legacy because no one knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman. And so he'll be able to continue as Batman as with the training that Bruce will get him, even though as side government said that Bruce won't be able to train him. Bruce will be able to train him by just looking at him as he has been trained in the past by some organization. And so Terry won't live under the legacy of Bruce Wayne, but will live as Batman and not under anyone's legacy. And so everyone trusts Batman, as that trust has been developed and made over time through as when Batman started off, as Bruce Wayne started off as Batman, people, the mayor and the people made him seem like a very bad person that was taking justice into his own hands and that he shouldn't do so. But with his great success, people trust Batman. And with Terry, a 16-year-old that uses the same equipment and has the same traits, he would be able to gain that same trust and people won't suspect a thing. And so as I have said, even with the big share of money from the Wayne Enterprise, he will be able to use that money to create new equipment. And as Bruce Wayne has once done, he has a lot of people that he can trust to develop that technology for him. And so those people that he trusts, like Mr. Fox and Alfred, they would be able to help him develop that kind of technology, and he would be able to continue as Batman. Even in that time when they're creating that new technology, he can still use the old equipment and become Batman and fight for justice. And so there is no way of using up Bruce's immense amount of wealth that he gave Terry, and so our and so government also said that he is only 16-year-old. But as we have seen, 16-year-old is almost a adult. He was a reformed he also a reformed troublemaker that had the sense of a criminal. He knows what the criminals want best, what their motives are, and why they do it. He would understand why criminals do what they do more than Bruce Wayne or more than anyone ever would. And so as a 16-year-old, yes, it would be a huge burden to put on him. But as we know, as it says there, Terry would, even if Terry doesn't take up the responsibility, he would become his own superhero, which would be an even harder thing. He will need to create new technology and create new equipment to become a new superhero. And so we think that this is very irrelevant. And so, of course, people would expect a lot more if he continues as Batman. But as Bruce Wayne, he already trusts Harry. He won't disappoint the people because he will undergo the training that Batman will give him. And so through the training that Batman has gotten, he has got more experience than any of his trainers have ever got, and he knows what is the right thing to do for his very own city of Gotham. And so people will be very scared of him, and as the leader of opposition has said, people trust Terry more if he continues his brand. And so also that Terry doesn't have any special abilities. And so he mainly relies on Bruce Wayne's wealth and equipment and the Wayne Enterprises wealth. And so as Batman has once done this, Bruce Wayne too doesn't have any special abilities. All he knows is how to fight, and that he wants to fight justice. And so we as side opposition strongly believe that we should win this debate. Thank you. Sorry for overtime.
Thank you, Diallo, for the great speech. Just a short reminder for all speakers, try not to exceed the time limit. Thank you. Next off, may we invite the government whip to present their case. Here.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
All right. Reminder that I will only accept verbal POI since I would not be looking at the chat. Speech starting in 3, 2, 1. Being Batman is taking on the mantle of a superhero on par with Superman. That is one that is impossibly high, and that is undoubtedly going to have various expectations being set down for Terry McGinnis. So a few responses to side opposition before I move on into my clashes is that firstly, they tell us that people wouldn't know that Bruce Wayne is Batman. This is contradictory because Batman has already retired. So it means that he's no longer Batman, right? And especially now, since side opposition is supporting a new Batman to patrol the city and protect them, it means that he can't actually verbally give his support to this new Batman, right? He can't do it as Bruce Wayne, and since the old Batman is no longer going to be there, who is to say that they will even support Batman's protege, even when he makes mistake, even when he does something that differs from the original Batman, right? We tell you that this kid, this 16-year-old would not be able to actually live up to Batman, such a high figure, when he doesn't even have the experience as him. And even if we say that he did receive some training from Batman himself, we tell you that he's not going to perform the exact same way. People will know that Batman have more training and has protected the city for decades. And this kid just only started taking up the mantle. They know that he's not up to it. They can see that even with this mask and all of the suit, you can tell that he is only a kid. You can tell that he is not fully an adult yet. You can tell that he is not going to be able to protect the city well, even with all the training, right? Who is to say that Batman will be able to watch for him when the public doesn't even know who he is? They do not provide any mechanisms to this, right? The second thing they tell us is that this 16-year-old is almost an adult and he knows what the criminals want, but we tell you that he is not a villain like Joker. He doesn't know what these villains actually think and what they actually want, right? He's just a mere troublemaker, which looks like you're just skipping classes and it's only a playful kid who likes making trouble. If you say he's such a villain, why would Batman even take him in as the first place, right? Since Batman is his mentor, it means he can still support him as a mentor, even though Terry rebrands himself. There's just no incentive for him to hinder his growth and force him to be under his league and be under the Batman brand, right? It's like he supported Robin, but Robin doesn't really use his Batmobile or his suit. He still is his own person, right? We are not forcing Terry to become the new Batman. And as seen as in the past, in like the comics depicted in the comics itself, Batman also would support someone, even if they receive the training from him, someone who won't be the new Batman. So moving on to my clashes is the first thing, whether rebranding himself or not is in his best interest. Side opposition, their best case is to tell us that if Terry becomes the new Batman, it will be easy for his job since he's able to directly use the name of Batman to do what he wants. He can have the weapons and gadgets, and also he can gain respect from the people and also fear from the villains, right? And the criminals. So why is this untrue? On the respect and fear, I already told you that people know he's not the real Batman. He's only a mere kid. The villains know that as well. And they are going to either first going to kill him straight away just to defeat him as his weakest when he's starting out, and he will just have a horde of villains after him to bring him down. And the second thing, the villains will continue to wreak their havoc, which is already going to be exponentially high after the retirement of Batman, right? And they don't consider this new Batman as the old Batman who incites fear when they see him, right? They won't take him seriously and will just think, oh, it's just a mere kid, right? And he is just a kid. He's not going to have enough training, and they've already dealt with Batman before. They are going to know how to deal with this kid, right? And so the third thing is that the public perspective, right? So they're going to be speculative of his skill and ability to protect the city, seeing this mid kid who's not even an adult yet jumping from roof to roof to try to protect him. And as I explained before, Bruce Wayne or Batman is going to be unable to support him. And even if he is showing up as Batman's protege, showing up with all this Batman gear, who is to say that they think that he is actually Batman? Because they supported the original Batman and not the name itself, right? So the second thing is that the weapons, right? Let's say he does have the money to build all this tech, but who is to say that he actually has the knowledge to do it? Who's to say that he is smart enough to actually build these gadgets himself? Let's say he does have trustworthy people from Bruce Wayne, right? But who's to say that they trust Terry McGinnis because they trusted Bruce Wayne and not the kid is themselves, right? You're when you directly set him a guideline on how to be a superhero, it means that you don't have room for his own creativity and you're restricting what he can actually potentially fulfill, right? Now, onto the second clash is that whether or not he can fulfill the role of Batman. Side opposition says that people will trust him because he's under Batman. But firstly, how can you ensure he won't make mistakes? Secondly, how can you ensure that he will perform in the exact same way as Batman? We all know that everyone is different from each other. Nobody is the exact same, right? He doesn't have the same thinking method as Batman or the same experience, and it will just come back and bite him in the bubble later when he makes a mistake, right? People will just call him out for it, and that will be much more worse for him under side opposition. Under side government, where Terry McGinnis is able to actually become his own superhero regardless of whether associating whether he has received the training or not. The problem is now, is he going to be under Batman where he will just be disappointing all of the people and the villains will just come after him and kill him right away, or under our side of the house where he will rebrand himself using the training that he has received and protect the city in a much more efficient way and in the way that he supports. He's going to be his own unique superhero, we can't deny that, and he's going to need the support of the people, right? There is no guarantee on opposition that they can just say that the people will just attack this superhero without any form of training or without any form of like proving that he is worthy, right? And for that, I've never been proud to stand on side government. Thank you.
Thank you, Government Whip, for the great speech. May we now invite the opposition whip to present their case. Here.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Speech starting in 3, 2, 1. I'd like to start off my speech with some rebuttals. So, Government Whip said that if he does not rebrand himself and continue to live as the new Batman, people will not trust him because he is only a kid and not fully an adult, and people do not know who the new Batman is. But we think that this is really contradictory because on both sides he is really young and also new. So at least people know who is Batman on our side. But on government side, Terry will rebrand himself as a completely new name, and people do not even know where he came from, and therefore people will slightly trust us more on our or trust the new Batman more on our side. Government also stated that villains will try to target him and quickly bring the new Batman down because they don't take him seriously and he's really young, and they know it's not the old Batman. And this is contradicting again because in government side, he is also like a new hero. So if it's like a new young hero coming from out of nowhere and people don't know his name, the villains will also not take him seriously as he is so young, and they will also try to target him first. But at least on our side, if he continues the name of Batman, maybe they know they have like Batman's technology, maybe Batman taught him some knowledge and they would at least like be wary of him and like take him more seriously. They also said that
POI.
Yeah.
If people expect him to be Batman since he's going under the mantle of Batman, right? Wouldn't it be more of a letdown since you consider that he's a young kid and isn't going to be performing good straight from his first mission?
No, because okay, wait. Because if he's like Batman lah, people trust. I've already said people will trust Batman because like Batman is a really known hero. So like they will trust Batman's decision, and they maybe like will trust Terry to like fix his mistakes. But even in your side, if he's like a completely new hero and on his first mission he already failed, that will also lose the trust of the people, and it will just like make him people will trust him less. And when like people trust him less, it will like be harder to cooperate, and when it's like harder to cooperate, he will like have a hard time saving the city. And also they say that Terry has no knowledge to continue like the technology of Batman. But they also like, I don't understand how will Terry make his own new tech for his own brand. Like where will the experience come from? Because if he continues the technology of Batman, at least he will like learn about that technology, and maybe he can even expand on that technology. But if he just starts from his own technology, he does not have the knowledge to do that. And they also okay, wait. So in our world, they say that Terry will be really pressurized to be as good as Batman. But we say that in government world, he will also be really pressurized because he's like a new young 60-year-old kids appearing out of nowhere as a superhero. And even if he rebrands himself as a new hero, people will still compare the new hero to Batman because that's how the world is. People like to compare a lot. So they will compare because Batman was a really, really great hero. And this we can prove this because when Batman retired, the whole city like faced a lot of danger and a lot of like criminal cases. So people will compare the new hero to Batman, and he will be pressurized to do as well as Batman as well, because he he wants to like, people will like compare him. If he does not do as well as Batman, then like he'll be people maybe like will attack him. And if he does not do as well as Batman, people will keep saying, they'll complain, and they'll like say like the old superhero is protected the city better. And also opposition government, they keep saying that Terry can even outperform Batman, but they forgot the most important part. They did not give us any arguments on how Terry will gain the trust of the new hero. Like such a young hero, like, and a new name appearing out of nowhere, people surely will be like skeptical of him. And if the people don't even trust Terry, then it will be really, really hard for him to prove to them that he is really he can actually outperform. But on our side, if Terry goes by Batman, at least people will know that Batman trusted him, so maybe they'll still trust him. And also they say that Terry is a completely different person, and yes, we agree that he is a completely different person, but even as the second Batman, it also does not stop him from doing well. Just because you follow what Batman does, it does not mean that it will restrict him. If Batman did so well in his no, thank you. If Batman did so well in his old ways, it proves Terry can as well. And Batman already gave like the trust to him, so he knows, he sees the potential, and like he can continue Batman's great legacy, and maybe he can even do a better Batman. Like he can expand on his technology and stuff, and he can become like an even better Batman, and he will live up to his title. And they say that on our side, money will run out really quickly. But we say on their side, where would the money even come from? At least on our side, at the start, Terry has some wealth, he has some technology, he can learn how to invest in that money, and he can gain more wealth. And with that wealth, he can expand on Batman's technology, and he can even improve on his technology. But if you start with absolutely no money, and he wants to make his own technology, where would the money come from, and where would the knowledge come from? We are still really unclear about that, and therefore we think that it is better if Batman goes by the brand. I mean, Terry goes by the brand of Batman. That's the end of my speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Opposition Whip, for the great speech. May we now invite the reply speaker from opposition side to present the case. Here.
Okay, thanks. Wait, let me set my, okay. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. I'll start my reply speech by stating the clashes of this debate and explaining why we as side opposition should win this debate by stating why Terry, as the House as Terry shouldn't rebrand himself as a different superhero and continue the brand of Batman. So first, the first clash we were able to identify is that will Terry be as good as a Batman as Bruce has as the renowned superhero Batman as Bruce has in the past. And so as we have explained, as Terry is a different person, as side government has also said, he will have different tactics and have the knowledge and training that Batman has himself. And so he will know what is best for Gotham City, and he will know that, and he as he is a renowned troublemaker, he also knows the motive and why does criminals do what they do and why they do it. And so we think that he would be even better Batman as Bruce Wayne ever was. And so even though side government said that he's just a mere troublemaker and doesn't know the motive or why people like the Joker or any huge supervillains do what they do. And so we have also explained that people like Joker are very special case. That's beaten up by society, and is and is a very is a very dangerous person, but at least he knows the most common criminals that just do what they do for fun or what they do for the money, and he knows them better. And so people like the Joker is a very, as we have explained, is a very rare case in which he is beaten up by society. And so the second clash is that, is he mature enough as a 16-year-old to become Batman? And we have also explained that he, as a 16-year-old, will have enough resources and have enough training that was given by Bruce Wayne himself to carry out these things, to carry out these crime fighting acts to actually become Batman. And so we say that he will be mature enough despite what side government says. And so will Terry be better as a new superhero or as Batman? And we have also explained, as the first, second, and third speaker have said, that if he actually becomes a new superhero, he won't be able to use the old equipment. And so as Gotham's crime rates are rising, he won't be able to stop it as he needs to make new equipment. And so the crime rates will rise, and the justice system will need to have a lot of burden. And when he actually comes as a new superhero, he would have even more burden. And so we say that he should become Batman, as it would be more of an effective way than becoming a completely new superhero, as he is not Superman that has his natural abilities of a Man of Steel. And so as Terry has enough resources, as we have said, that he has a huge share in the Wayne enterprise. We know and we have explained that he will have enough resources. And so we, as side opposition, strongly believe that he should continue the brand of Batman and shouldn't rebrand himself as a new superhero. Thank you.
Thank you. May we now invite the reply speaker from government side to present their case. Here.
I just
Yeah, okay.
so I'm audible, right?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. It will be a loss for society if all the younger superheroes turn out to be Batman, and this entire society will just rely on this one superhero that's like completely the same, which is Batman, to save the world, right? So I'll be solving a few issues in this debate. Firstly, on the incentive of the actor. As the actor, the biggest obligation is to fight crimes, and whether it is in Harry's incentive to be a superhero under the name of Batman, right? So what we have told you, right? Number one, he's going to do his own job without worrying about upholding the legacy of Batman. And number two, is definitely not in the incentive for Terry to fight under the name of Batman, right? Because all the recognition and the trust that side opposition claim just belong to Batman. And this means that Terry is just living under the shadow of Batman, and this is definitely not his incentive. And it's comparatively better under our side, because when he rebrands himself, that means that he's a whole new individual, and all the benefits and all the recognition he gains is only to himself, right? And what opposition told you, the entire premise of side opposition, the entire case is just that this new Batman will gain the trust of the public, and Terry is as good as Batman, right? And why is this untrue? Because either side of the house, people are not just going to trust a new hero that pop out of nowhere. And at least under our side, people will be more forgiving of his mistakes, since they are not directly expecting him to be an exact replica of Batman, right? And Terry is obviously not going to be as good as Batman because of his lack of experience, and is a major flaw that he has. He has never dealt with the criminals before, and he doesn't has that much experience as Batman. So why is this better? Because he doesn't have to live up to the expectations of Batman, because people have lived under the reign of Batman, and it's just harmful to him when he's restricted and he can't be a better superhero, given that he is a superhero. He has this incentive to serve the society better. But when you live under the mold of Batman, this means to say that you can only follow the exact footsteps of Batman, right? Number 2, on the resources. Given that under both sides, Terry has been under Batman before, so the resources is not just exclusive, because opposition didn't prove why Batman won't give him any support if he rebrands himself. Obviously, he's going to fund him as well, just to make sure that he has a good job in protecting the society, just because he is her mentor and he still has this incentive to give him some sort of support. But we think that it's just not good for him to completely rely on Batman, because he needs to develop his own technology as well. But given that right now, under side opposition, he's directly living under the mold of Batman, this means to say that he doesn't really have that much improvement to stray away from the initial technology or the gadgets that Batman uses, right? Number 3, on the perception. There's so the public, they say that for the public, who is to say that they won't think that he's just a fraud pretending to be Batman without the vouch of the OG Batman and the word of him, right? There's no guarantee that he can do good. And even if you talk about the trust, which is the biggest claim coming from side opposition, we think that this trust just directly affects Terry, right? Because this trust means that they have this expectation for him to do as good as Batman. This trust means that they directly trust him to perform as well as Batman, right? Given that we have already explained multiple layers on to why this is very unlikely, just because he's just started off, he's the young and new superhero, is that it's definitely he definitely can't be as good as Batman when he started off, right? But it's just better under our side when he has this room to still improve himself, because he's not directly affiliated to Batman. He's not directly living under the legacy of Batman, right? And the villains, also, they talk about villains. They say that they will try to target him because they will not take him seriously, right? They want to return to the state of before after the OG Batman died, and want to get rid of this new Batman immediately. It wouldn't be as severe under our side, since he's just being shown as a new superhero, and there's just no previous grudges against him. Therefore, I'm very proud to propose. Thank you.
Thank you. The reply speaker from government side. This marks the end of the debate. May all observers and debaters please leave the room for judges' deliberation. Thank you.
For members not participating, like the finals or anything, y'all can leave already lah. Yeah, so thank you guys. Y'all can leave, but for those who participated in the grand finals and want to stick around for the award ceremony, remember to return by 2 p.m. lah. The rest of y'all can leave. Thank you.